inizio, faccio il benvenuto. Va bene?
Yes.
Okay. So, welcome everyone. I'm very happy that so many people have joined us tonight for our second IMI Lädt Ein online, which we used to do in our office, but now because of the coronavirus and the circumstances, we are switching to an online format. And this is also our first IMI Lädt Ein in English. So I'm very excited, and I'm very excited that tonight we have with us activists from the group Stop RWM from Sardinia. We have with us Mari, Massi, Steffi, and Vio. And yes, glad to have you and with us to talk about your struggle. And first of all, I would like to ask, what is the Stop RWM campaign?
It is a great mobilization against the factory of bombs in Domus Novas. The protest against this factory started in 2000, but the protest got more intense, widest, when the establishment was converted from entirely to war production. It happened when the factory was acquired by RWM. It happened in 2010. And the movement became more intense. It became hot at the beginning of the war against Yemen in 2015. The fight against RWM consisted mainly in a great protest in front of the factory facilities in Domus Novas. It was participated by a variety of groups, environmentalists, anti-militarist, pacifist, independentist, and so on, all aiming at having the factory stop producing bombs. Indeed, we organized a demonstration during the production days, trying to stop the production for the day, or at least for some hours. It happened that it worked, but the police started to prevent us from getting closer to the factory. So we had to invent other means. For example, walking through the fields to get closer to the facilities. There were also we also have been marching in Domus Novas. Domus Novas is the village which is closest to the factory, 1 kilometer. It has been a very curious day. Okay, we've also posted great manifestos in Domus Novas. Building murales in Iglesias. Iglesias is the other town which has a close connection to the factory. Of course, organizing debates, conferences about the RWM and the situation in Yemen.
Mm-hmm. And what is the concrete reason for the creation of the group was the war in Yemen?
Yes, exactly. And so the momentum started in 2015 when there was when Saudi Arabia attacked Yemen and launched RWM bombs over it. And then in June 2015, a journalistic investigation done by Reportedly, and then another one by the New York Times, showed how you can see in the picture here how the aircraft bombs used to destroy civilian homes in Yemen were actually manufactured in Sardinia. Here you can see in the pictures there's an identification code, and from there you can tell where the bomb is made. And so that's when we realized that the bombs made next to our homes were being dropped in Yemen.
Mm-hmm. And what is the goal of your campaign?
Okay, at the beginning it was to stop the production of bombs. Well, but after the beginning of the war in Yemen, the factory did a big expansion programs. So our goal has become to stop the expansion.
Sorry, just a technical problem. We cannot move the slides anymore.
You cannot move the slides anymore? Okay, wait, I will check. Okay, now?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, welcome. Phew. Okay.
So you see, okay, the slide describes the expansion program, which is consistent. Really remarkable. They've been expending 40 million euros in that since 2017. Yes, 2016. You see the situation in 3 years changed a lot because a new line of production has been added. Warehouses, premises for the employees, and warehouses for new materials. Energy plants have been built. Okay, all that at the cost of the environment. First of all, let's see that there's a river that yes, okay.
Okay,
and can evaluate the changes. Even watching the slides, we'll add more with the next slides.
So the goal was once to stop the production of the bombs and also to stop the expansion that you are showing us right now?
Indeed.
Okay, and what exactly, so we have the bombs that were used by Saudi Arabia in the war on Yemen, and so what does Rheinmetall Waffenmunition, what does RWM produce in Sardinia? There are these bombs, and what's their production exactly?
Yeah, so it's air bombs and then marine mines. And then here you can see, so this the MK-80 is the aircraft bombs. And the one on the bottom to the right is the sea mine. And then this is...
penetration bomb.
What?
High penetration bombs.
The high penetration bombs on the top right. So this is like the production of the actual weapons, let's say. But if we talk about what does it produce, it's not just the actual bombs, but there's also, in the next slides, we will see the very high profits of the factory. And here you can see how it rises over the years since the conversion to the Warcraft factory, and how it's really going up and up and up. And so then also not just the high profits, but there's also huge turnovers. Is it too quick? Should we wait a little longer on the slides, or is it time?
For me, it's fine. If anyone else has a different opinion, you're most welcome to write it in the chat, and we will look at that and consider that.
Okay. As you can see here, this is the big turnover of the factory. So it's really a lot of money, and there's a big discrepancy. I don't know if you can say discrepancy in English, but from 40,000 millions to actually billions, no millions, to 140 millions. Sorry, I'm confused with the numbers. It's a really big difference between these years. And then if you compare it to the little occupation that the factory produces, you can really tell how it is ridiculous. The amount of money that they make compared to the employees in Sardinia, in the towns close to it.
And so on the slide before, we could see that the income, the profit generated, went high after the Yemen war, and then also the factory expansion plan was presented. So is it a consequence of the profits made by the war?
Absolutely, yes. As you can see here, you have a diagram of the profits. They rocketed literally. So the factory administration felt the need of this expansion plan that was presented in 2016, 2017. Yes, they had to triple their production. So they added lines, they added warehouses, and very important, they added a text field north of the facility area. So you can see an extension, a faster extension that is the here you can see it, the text field. There they are going to test explosives and devices and war devices. That is going to be a danger also for the pollution that is going to create. We should have expected that it would be more difficult to them to create that, but they had the permission to do that.
And what are the effects on the local surrounding, the environment that you were mentioning? Here we also see the plant that's under construction. Like, what does it exactly mean? You were talking also about a river before.
Yeah, so first of all, if we think of the factory, the surrounding area of the factory is a very beautiful mountain range with woods and pastures where a lot of animals go and eat grass. And less than a kilometer from it, there is archaeological sites and also caves. So there's a lot of heritage, like archaeological heritage of the place. And then there's a river that goes through the factory. And so the expansion plan actually presents a very high risk, a very high hydrological risk, with possibilities of floods and landslides. From the pictures, and also if you go on top of the mountain and you look down, you can see the devastating impact of the factory on the territory. It's really like a monster, a huge monster. And then the river is affected also because the sewage waste is dumped in the river, and there's no purifier. Of course, the factory waste is stocked and then brought to some waste place, but there still is a very high risk of pollution in the river just from the sewer of the factory. Then another important thing is the emissions in the atmosphere from the factory and the fumes of the production, and then also the explosives that are being tested. They go on the air and then they fall back on the ground. And as I said before, there's a lot of pastures in the area around it. So there's a lot of animals that end up eating what they test there, or drinking the water. And then also very important to note is that there's no up-to-date risk and safety plan. The one that is in order now is 8 years old and is not suited for a world production factory. It's like an old safety plan that is not up to date to the local state of the factory now.
So if there is an unwanted explosion that could be a danger for people living close by, it would put them in risk.
Exactly.
And so also the environmental pollution, it's bad for the environment, but if I imagine that the water is getting polluted, that's also a risk for the inhabitants, right?
Yeah.
Indeed. Mm-hmm.
And in general, how is the presence of the factory being felt in the region? Like, what influence does it have on the inhabitants apart from the environmental problems?
They don't see very much concerned about that, unfortunately. The area is economically very depressed, and there is a high unemployment problem. So people in Domus Novas don't criticize at all the factory, but on the contrary, they sometimes say that it's a good thing because it brings jobs. The local politicians follow the trend. They don't criticize. They've approved. The Council of Iglesias Township has approved the plan of expansion. We were there that day protesting, but they approved. So that's it. And then Regione Sardegna, that is the highest administration of Sardinia, which is Sardinia, which should also be let's say a guarantee for our safety. On the contrary, approved the plan without asking the necessary assessment. One very important is the evaluation of environmental impact, which hasn't been done, even if they are going to test explosives there. And it is also the content of also of the motivation of one of the motivation of our legal appeal. Another way that they use that they approved they approved a plan that was partitioned into 12 parts. It was not presented as a whole part, but as 12 parts, and that maybe that was and they've taken the local administration has approved it without objection. And has also denied the access to important documents to organizations that were asking for documents.
Public documents.
For public documents.
Are supposed to be out for everybody, but they
were denied.
Yeah.
And how did they explain that?
They simply were paving the way for the RWM. They closed both eyes. They are on their side and not on the side of people who needs safety and a safe environment and a healthy environment.
That was also the line of your legal appeal, that they violated the guidelines for environmental protection and
yes,
for the lack of not having a safety plan.
No, indeed, the safety plan for external areas that they've got is very old, and it is not suited for weapons production. It was old even when they started widening the facilities, and it's totally unfit even now, even more unfit now. Yes. Like that. That is a real important point that we are making. Notice that the river that goes through the area of the premises is subject to periodical floods, and they've been building just on the banks of the river. Curiously, something that is totally prohibited normally, I would say. Another safety problem is that of the bombs transportation. You can see here, you can see the scene from the slides. That is, that's the civilian airport that have been the site for bomb uploading. It was an urgent moment for them to deliver the weapons to Saudi Arabia. And so they used our civilian airport, something that is really out of order, totally out of order. There have been some protests about that. Yes, of course. Say, please.
Can I add something?
Yes, please.
Like from this picture, you can really tell how the factory continues to prosper, really thanks to the strong power relationship and support of the regional politicians and regional and local politicians, the press, and the workers' unions. Yeah, and some workers' unions, of course, not everybody, like the ones inside the factory. And one example of this is also that in the past it has happened that at least two of the local administrators, not the mayor, but like people in the local administration, have been also employees of the factory. And so like we cannot say that there has been cases of corruption, but we can suspect that. And then also it's like Mariella said, that the local population is very aggressive. It's also kind of understandable because nobody in the institutions raises any voice against the factory, and so how can we expect someone that is like super poor and under like some economic I don't know how to say, like blackmailing? Of course we cannot expect them to be the voice, to raise their voices against the factory.
Yeah. And so before you started to describe what methods you're using in your struggle against Rheinmetall, and could you summarize that again, please? There were several forms that you were mentioning, from legal struggle to protests and morales.
Yes, which unfortunately, well, actually, we could have foreseen it. It has been destroyed. It was very nice anyway. It was realized in an afternoon. We took part. It represents a big boom falling down. At the top of the boom there are a family having supper, and in the lower side of the boom there is also a family having supper. The same. But the one which is up, of course, it is profiting from the wage that the production is giving them. The one which is down, of course, is going to be destroyed by the impact of the boom. Right, and that's one thing. Something very nice, I think, that we organized was going through, getting closer to the facilities of the RWM through the fields. We did this several times, and it was also a good opportunity to see the environment. We also organized an exposition of information and a treasure hunt, which of course had as a theme the questions related to the RWM.
Yes. And
yeah, would you like to add?
No, because you mentioned it before, the demonstrations inside the village or the town of Domus Novas, and then of course the legal action against the expansion and against the factory. And then just Mariella said before, eventually we had to organize these different kind of actions because we were not allowed anymore towards the gate of the factory.
Yes, yeah, because it was going to stop the production. That is why they stopped us 2 kilometers before.
Did they stop you with force? Like, did they use water cannons or?
No, they were an anti-riot equipment.
Mhm.
So they did not aggress us, but they were very threatening anyway.
Yeah, I remember once that we were like, maybe we all had 5 police people each. Like, yeah, the police was like 5 times more than we were, so they didn't need to.
Sometimes, yes.
Oh yes, and also it's important to note that in one of these actions, in one of these protests, when we went through also the towns, it has happened that the people of the town damaged some cars, not cars, but like the tires of the cars of the activists there. And then in the picture here, you see this was a protest that happened through the town of Domus Novas, and it was actually a funeral. So we had, as you see in the pictures, the shape of the sign is of a coffin, of a coffin, and then we had a huge coffin, and then we all were wearing the typical Sardinian veil for when you're mourning. So it was a very strong moment of sensibilization through the town.
Yeah, there were also smaller white coffins representing children who died, and there was written, "It's also your son." So we try to we try to raise people's sensibility. Sensitiveness, but well, we tried, but okay, the response was not so good as we might have expected. The response was cold, actually. Indeed.
And then you also had the murales, or yeah.
Yes, we've also been going to Domus Novas in the night, posting big manifestos on the walls against the RWM, but they tear them down.
The people from the place.
We tried to keep them. Yeah, we tried.
But the murales did not get damaged.
The murales got destroyed. It was because they destroyed the wall where it was. It was made on a wall of an old factory where they built cycles. They built yes, Aurora. They were the bike Aurora. They've been throwing down the walls, so our murales was also destroyed.
Okay, but it was not because of the murales. They were going, so at least, okay, that's okay.
Well, let's say that.
Okay. And so we're talking about the police stopping you from getting closer to the bomb fabric production site. But what about state repression? Have you faced state repression, or are you facing state repression for your actions?
Yes, there's 2 levels of repression, and if we consider like the repression that we are experiencing in another struggle of Sardinia against the military occupation, and so the military bases, we can say that the one for the RWM is a bit more subtle and like not as oppressive as it is in the other case. But yeah, as we said before, the police has been very hostile against anybody going close to the factory. And then they made it eventually impossible to get close to the gates. And then the other kind of subtle repression, it involves money. And so the legal action against the factory are very, very expensive. And right now, for example, the campaign has to pay 4,000 euros to one as a compensation to a state consultant. The state consultant was called by the university, and he was a consultant for the trial. And he's associated with the RWM, strangely. And so, yes, just for the activists, just for having the courage of pointing out the serious responsibility of who permitted the expansion, is now getting this 4,000 euros compensation to a person that actually didn't do what they're supposed to be doing.
Just to understand, how is he affiliated with Rheinmetall? The professor who did the examination, like the report. Their cooperation with the university, is he involved?
Yes, because it's part of a department, of university department, that has been, the department has been collaborating in some ways with the RWM, and he is part of this department.
Okay, thank you.
Send the students to have.
Yes, they send students to have information, to have training, tutorial training,
internship.
Okay.
Yeah, and also, like, once he even said that RWM doesn't produce explosives. It's like, you know, it's like it's something interesting to say.
Yeah, which is contradicting other documents that you have that show that they are allowed to produce these explosives.
Yes, exactly. Right? Yeah, this really shows how the system is colluded with the company. It's very difficult to go against the company because there's no.
Yeah. And how is your legal struggle against the expansion of the Rheinmetall production side? How is it going right now? Like, yeah, at what point are you now?
We wanted to go on. We are going through a second degree administrative appeal. We really think it's important. We didn't win the first degree, but the reasons that we've got are so important, so urgent, and well, our first degree got they didn't give us right, but it's important that we go on. We've also got the penal side. Yes, we got an appeal at the administrative court, and the appeal in front of the penal court. Well, the first degree in front of the penal court for abuses that they've committed. The fight must go on. Then the second degree is going to be held in Rome. We have to move there to send lawyers there. It will cost us pretty a lot of money, let's say. So we are asking support from all activists and all realities that really care for peace, for a safer environment for everybody. We are going on. We've been supporting a lot of expenses for our first administrative degree. We've been facing expenses of about 8,000 euros, and we need. I think we need. We shall be in the need about of the double. I think. Okay, we are very optimistic.
Also, I've heard that.
Yes.
Yeah, and, like your optimism, I think I've heard that Italy has revoked the licenses of arms exports to Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's, yeah, congratulations. I hope, I guess it's also partly because of the resistance and like speaking publicly about it and pointing at it and underlining that this is profit from a very brutal war that has caused the biggest humanitarian crisis on Earth right now. And so what is the reaction of Rheinmetall? Like, how do you evaluate this decision? And yeah, what are the reactions?
Sorry, I'm seeing this slide for the first time. Yeah, so actually the factory, of course, is not very happy, and they now want to bring the government to trial. So they actually want to do the same thing that the campaign is doing. They want to do it against the government. And of course, they did not surrender or resign from their goals and businesses. And of course, the export towards countries that are in war did not stop. It only stopped for a specific country. This doesn't mean that they will stop the production or the exports of weapons. For example, Turkey is one of the buyers. And again, of course, they will find ways to go around the embargo, because it's very easy to go around it. You just need to sell it to another country, and then that country can sell it to whoever they want if they don't have it in their laws or constitution. And so, yes, they're not settled with this for sure.
Mm-hmm. And you were talking first also about the numbers of employees, and that this is being used as an argument. So is Rheinmetall using this again? Like, are they saying they want to protect like the working places, or what's their rhetoric?
Yes, there's been a lot of articles actually in the news about the threat of this decision towards the occupation of the population, of the local population. So yeah, they're using this as a tool against this decision of the government.
Absolutely. Yes. They are going to demonstrate in Rome for this problem, the problem of the loss of jobs, which is caused by the blockade, by the government blockade. Anyway, we are firm to think that jobs cannot be subordinated to the safety of other people in a destabilized area of the world. That cannot be the solution.
Oh, we cannot hear you.
The audio is gone.
Sì, c'è il microfono.
Ah, sì.
Okay, sorry, now. And Rheinmetall is trying to organize a protest in Rome, you were saying?
Yes,
I couldn't imagine. Like,
RWM trade unions are going there. And also political party. The political party, which is now at the lead of the local regional administration.
mm-hmm. So your legal struggle against Rheinmetall right now is very urgent, I assume, like now looking at Rheinmetall, who are also trying to fight it in court. And you were saying before that you're happy to receive support. And could you tell us more about it? Like, what kind of support could be useful? And what could activists who don't live in Sardinia, for example, who live in Germany and who are partly also fighting Rheinmetall, what could they do? Also activists that maybe don't have a lot of money to donate, like what would you be wishing for?
Yeah, please.
Well, I want to give a little background of before giving the answer, because lately, in the past years, we've been in touch and making connections with a lot of international activists. And so, for example, we were in the Unterlus camp of, I really don't know how to pronounce it. I have it written here, Rheinmetall and Waffen. And so that was was one important part of making a network, building a network. And then also we've been in touch with activists from the Basque Country and the activists monitoring the routes of the Saudi ships that go around the Mediterranean and in Europe to transport the bombs. With Ongi e Torri from the Basque Country, La Guerra Empieza Aquí, che sono della Spagna. Oh, they're the same people, I got confused. And yeah, so they are Spanish collectives against armed trafficking. And then the Nomuos in Sicily and many other activist groups, anti-militarist groups all over Europe.
Sorry, some people don't know Nomuos. Could you maybe explain what that is? The group, like what that is in Sicily?
No.
It's well, MUOS means Mobile User Objective System. And so it's a system, it's a USA system that is planted in Sicily.
In Sicily,
in Niscemi.
It's a Yugoslavia system for telecommunication by satellite.
Did you hear it?
Yes, it's for the satellite communication of the US military.
Exactly. And it's in Sicily. And so why is this network very important? It's important because like we are not a highly populated area, and so the activists are even less in number than the overall population of the island. And so the international solidarity and the pressure that the international activists can do on Rheinmetall or on RWM is very important. And so also it has happened that how do I call it? Sorry, I'm getting lost in the language. It's very important to do actions at the same time. For example, like for the il coso degli attivisti, degli azionisti, Jackie.
Like the big meeting, große Aktionärsversammlung. I remember the word in German. It was like the big meeting of the actionaries, like those who are shareholders.
Yeah,
of Rheinmetall in Berlin. It's a yearly event.
Exactly. So this gives a much bigger voice to our struggle. It gives it importance to the international eye. And then of course, as we said, there is the possibility of donating money to the campaign. And of course, as I was saying, this international solidarity doesn't work just one way. It works both ways. So it's you support us and we support you to give importance to the international eye of the different struggles. And then another very important thing is to note a success from last year. Last year was 2020, at the beginning of 2020, when a Saudi ship, the Bari Yambu, which transports weapons and bombs, after being monitored by the groups that monitor the routes of the ships, the activists spread the word around Europe, and the ship was not able to dock in at least 2 ports, one in Antwerp in Belgium, and then in England they had to change the port, and then in France they were met by a lot of protests, and also in Spain, and then also in the port of Genoa. And it's very important to note that the workers of the port of Genoa are very, very active against the transporting of bombs and weapons. They don't only aim to stop the trafficking, but they also aim to make it so these ships cannot go into the port of Genoa. And so at the same time, protests happen in Germany and in Switzerland. So this is a very successful example of a global action day. And then last but not least, it's very important to say something that is being promoted by the workers of the port of Genoa is to do local actions anywhere where is a war industry. And everywhere is a war industry, even next to your home. It's not just in Unterlus, it's not just in Sardinia, it's in many, many places. It's very invasive. And so we should all really boycott the industry in our homes. It's not important to come to the struggle in Sardinia. Of course, you're welcome to come, but it's also important that you do it in your home, in your own home, because not everybody can do everything, can be everywhere, but you can be active in your place. And here in the slide, there is the possibility of seeing the campaign and the crowdfunding for the campaign.
You also have a donation call, right? Can you tell us where we can find it, or people who are interested where they can find it?
Yes, you can find it in on the platform buonacausa.org. I think that we can move. No, I can't see. Buonacausa.org, stop RWM.
And for those who don't want to make these online payments and who want to just transfer the money, there's also a WordPress site, no?
Yes, there's a possible of a bank account, to have access to a bank account. You will find it. You will find the number on the site. Stop RWM. .wordpress. It's possible to donate. The holder is Italia Nostra.
Yeah. Oh, someone posted in the chat the link that's going to Informationsstelle Militarisierung, to our group, where we had a short information on your donation call. So anyone who is interested can click on that link, and there you can find the WordPress site that you were mentioning, and also the Buona Causa online donation website.
Indeed, yes.
So we don't need to write it. Someone wrote it already?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much for this interesting talk. And I'd say we make a point at right here and open the floor to discussion. If anyone has a question or would like to comment something, you're most welcome to write it in the chat, and we are happy to hear from you. And yeah, thank you so much for your inspiring struggle and for being here with us.
Thank you for
Thank
giving us the
you.
space.
Thank you.
While we are waiting for questions, I actually have a question. And you were talking about workers' unions in Rheinmetall Waffe Munition. And do you have any information on that? Like, how does a workers' union look like there?
They are. They seem they are totally in solidarity with the production and the factory. Well, let's say that the employees have been have slightly increased in the course of this 10 years, 15 years that the factory started. Well, from 67 employees in 2012, now we have about 97 which have been put off and now are staying on a temporary job assignment. They are going to take production back in the next few months for an order that they've received from an European country. Yes, the unions are in total solidarity with factory aims. they support. They don't have nothing to say. For example, on the fact that half of them are temporary, so they don't even take an assignment when they are put off, when they are put out. That's sad. That's sad because it seems that they are not fighting for their own interest, but for the interest of the factory.
Okay.
Some
And
unions are the voice of the master of bombs.
Yes.
Like GGL.
Yes.
Some other unions like
CSS, USB.
Are against the bomb production.
Absolutely.
They are for the conversion of civil production.
Indeed, and they have been part to the first appeal, to the first legal appeal that we have been doing against RWM. They've taken part. I mean, USB, which is a union, grassroots union, let's say. So mainstream unions are on their side, but there are others who contest the factory.
The main Italian union, CGL, have an ambiguous assessment.
Yes, ambiguous.
Because the national chief of CGL is against the bomb production, but the local exponents are
very much in favor of it. Yes, so that's a bit contradictory. Huh?
okay, and there a question has arrived. It says, first, many thanks for your courageous struggle against these warmongers. I would like to ask whether you think to stop of Italian arms export will hold up under the new government that is currently lumped together. Like, what's going to happen with the new government?
Who knows? We of course we hope, we eagerly hope that the bloc will be kept, but we cannot be totally sure. Well, the new government, of course, is a new chapter that is being opened. It's a technical government, very much aimed at making the cons come out, and well, there are also some. There's a minister who has been appointed. It comes from Leonardo, which is the greatest industrial company in Italy.
And which
the greatest military company in Italy, Leonardo. Yes, and is minister of transition to ecology, ecological transition, and it comes, yes, curiously enough. So you cannot be too. You cannot feel safe with this government, not at all. We are pretty worried. We keep our attention.
And also I saw pictures of Renzi, who used to be the Prime Minister of Italy, just a few days before the export to Saudi Arabia was stopped, in Saudi Arabia being part of this investors conference, the Davos in the desert, and he was part of the board of the organizers of that conference. So will he play any role in the Italian government now?
Officially, Renzi is not given any charge, but yes, there's a minister of his party. Yes, possibly. We also remember when he was first minister, when he was premier, the Minister Pinotti, a woman who was in Saudi Arabia, taking part to conferences, to meetings. she had no objection, not at all, with trade, with a weapon trade toward Saudi Arabia. She said that it was absolutely legal, even if there is a law, the 185 of the 90. That
I can't hear you anymore. Okay.
Okay. Talking about the law on 185, which forbids exportation to countries which not respect human rights or which are in war, in a state of war against some other country.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and then there is another question. How does it feel to live next to a factory based on explosives? Sounds somewhat precarious.
We don't know. We don't live there.
No, we don't know, but we know someone who lives there,
Yeah,
and they don't feel well at all. But in the Iglesias, there's let's say industrial area, but it's also an area where a lot of people are resident, and there. RWM has located a warehouse of liquids which are highly explosive and corrodent, and they are next to people's houses, and they're next to a workshop of a mechanic. That shouldn't be allowed according to the law. That is not possible, but they effectively are there. And the township of Iglesias has nothing to say.
Just one.
And you were saying that there are efforts for reconversion, like that there are people who are trying to push to have a different production there, like a civil production, or are there any ideas what could be done with the factory, or how other jobs could be created? Like this reconversion, what's the plan? Is there a plan?
Yes, there are plans for the reconversion, but they are still in the goodwill of some organization, and there's no way to make them real. How is that possible? The RWM is still property of it's got its firm ownership. It should be sent away. There's no there is not the least step in that direction. So for the moment, it's just sadly enough, but it's just a wishful thinking.
Also, the reconversion is a good way for some politicians to fill their mouths with like good words, but then they don't do anything about it. So it's really difficult to trust any politician that talks about reconversion, because as Mariella said, it's very difficult to obtain that.
Yeah. Here's a proposal in the chat. It says grazing could be an idea, like to have more pasture. How was it in English? Yeah, more sheep and more goats, like grazing, cheese production, or
yes, there has been a plan.
Friendly.
Yes, there's an idea of converting it into a place where to process and create milk produces, but it is not reliable. How could you make it real? For the moment, it's I don't see. There should be the will from the state and the Regione Sardegna to to take the property of the to expropriate the factory, but there's not the least step in that direction. Absolutely. On the contrary, they are doing all to favor it. Regione Sardegna has done a lot to favor to pave the factory plans. So the reality is totally contrary to this plan of reconversion.
Okay, I would like to read out a comment has been posted in the chat. It says, I live in Domus Novas. Some people here don't know. Some people are afraid to talk because everywhere they go, there is somebody who works there or a relative of them.
Yeah, indeed. They live too close, let's say, to the establishment, and they might have friends or relatives who works there, so they are very cautious with their opinions. We can understand that.
Yeah, this really.
Well, let's say that there's a sort of silence. They keep a cold silence about that.
And like this confirms what we were saying before about how threatening it is for anybody to speak up.
And there's another question. Apart from Rheinmetall, what other weapon producers are present in Sardinia? And what military forces are using the island? Like before you were also talking about the military occupation, like how your island is being exploited for military means in many different ways. Could you tell us some more about that?
Okay, so in it's very long, so I try to be short and also give you add some things because it's easy to get confused and to forget something. So Sardinia is about a quarter of Sardinia, and also a lot of the sea area is a military base. Some of it is NATO and some of it is Italian Ministry of Defense. And near one of these bases, in Quirra, in the center east on the coast of Sardinia, there is the Vitrocizet, which is a war production factory, and they produce pieces of the F-35, the planes. Yes, and in the in inglese non so le cose. In Quirra, in one of these in the base, there's a lot of testing of aerospatial missiles. I did not prepare this in English, so I'm getting against.
Don't worry.
And also there's a lot of pollution there from the bases, and there's also trials going on about the people getting cancer from the uranium impoverito,
Pulverized.
Uranium, depleted uranium, which is like the same kind of syndrome that is like the same syndrome of the Balkan syndrome from the uranium, from the military who were in the Balkans and then got sick with leukemia. And so also many people from these towns surrounding the area of Quirra are getting sick and dying from this, or there's been cases of animals being born with more than 4 legs or more than 1 head. And then there's also many other places on the island that are part of the military bases, and we call it the military occupation of Sardinia. And some of it is from NATO and some of it is not. And then in 2017, the German army, was it 17?
Going away.
Yeah, the German army went away from testing and from training, sorry, not testing, but from training from the airport, the military airport.
Luftwaffe.
Yeah, they were training in Sardinia, but because of the loss of money from the protests, they decided to leave because it was uneconomic for them. And then in Teulada, for example, which is in the south, in there there's a lot of training for wars, especially in Islamic countries. Let's call them like this. It's not my way of saying it, but it's their way of saying it. And the Balkan countries, yes. And so they do, like in there, there's like reproduction of villages, and they do the training there for the terrorists and so on. And then there's a lot of the sea area that is used. Many beaches you cannot access the beaches for a lot of the time during the year. And they only open them again for the summer for the tourists, because we are a touristic island, of course.
Yeah. This morning we were in front of the tribunal, demonstrating for a sentence that we are expecting, a sentence that should archiviate an exposition that has been made by the group of civilians in Teulada for the pollution that has been created by the activity at the military range in Teulada. There's a very active military range there. They've been they've been presenting the exposition of this situation a couple of years ago, during which there has been an inquiry that has proved that there is a huge pollution there, a very dangerous and wide state of pollution. And the Minister of Defense has declared that it is not possible to clear it up. But that's just their opinion. Anyway, there were 5 high military officials incriminated for environmental disaster and murder as well. But the judge is going to put everything down and archiviate the procedure. So they are not going to, they are not going to go on. And they say that there are no culprits for that. That is terrible. If you think also that on the other side, they've been incriminated, a group of 45, actually 50 activists for protesting against the military ranges. And 5 of them have been given extreme charges, like that of terrorism. They've been incriminated for terrorism because they've been protesting against the bases, against the military ranges. So on one side, there are people dying because of cancers, leukemias, on cause of the pollution around this base. On the other side, people who protest are charged with being criminal, with being terrorists. Well,
could you maybe explain to us what does it mean to be declared or judged a terrorist in Italy? Like, what sentence does that bring along? Like, what punishment is that?
Well,
no,
no.
Go.
For these 5, a very extreme measure has been asked, which is a preventive measure, which is called sorveglianza speciale, it means special surveillance. And it's something that it's a preventive action against someone who could be dangerous and who could commit crime. And so right now these 5 are facing a trial for this, and this could mean that for 2 or 3 years they are actually special surveilled people. They will have most of their basic rights taken away. They could not leave their homes for a certain amount of time of the day. Their driver's license are taken away. They will have to carry everywhere around this red book where police will write any way they go against the measure that they have on them. They have to show where they live, who they live. They cannot attend public meetings or protests. They cannot be in touch with anybody who's been condemned for any kind of crime. Yeah, this is basically most of all the measures that they will take. And so what does it mean? It means that like the accused of being a terrorist is actually a very, very heavy accusation, and they're accused of being like the 5 leaders, let's say, of this movement of 45 people, which of course we were many more than 45. And on the first trial, they've been asked for the whole 45 and 50 people, they've been asked for between 5 and 50 years of jail. Of course, this is all still going. Just the first trial has happened, but then yeah, they will have to face this in court.
The first audience.
And the special surveillance that will be put in place before the court sentence is done. Did I understand that correct? Like it's preventive before the court decides. They might be in a different kind of jail because it's quite restricting.
Exactly. Yes.
And they are going to restrict their personal freedom, but still the sentence has not been pronounced. So we are waiting for that.
Yeah, the judge has 90 days, and it was 2 weeks ago. So we might have to wait for 3 months before we know.
Okay. Yeah, I'm curious if there is a solidarity action or donation call concerning that. Let us know.
Yeah, there are. Well, we're doing a lot of events and benefits to collect money, and then I don't have it handy here right now, but we can send it to you, the IBAN, the bank info for donating for this cause.
Anyone who is interested can send an email to IMI, and I'll be happy to forward it to you if you want to have more information on it, or if you just like to share the information about this quite heavy trial. And checking the chat, there is another question, but this question takes us from Sardinia to Sicily. And so the question is that today the first mega drone, the global hawk, like the biggest existing drone in Europe, started as a NATO, I think that's air-ground surveillance from Sigonella, from Sicily. This is a very different topic. So just in case there would be something you would like to say about it. If not, don't worry. I mean, it's a very new news coming out and quite a different struggle and area. So it's just trying to try out the magic box if there is a response. If not, don't worry.
Yes, we know that this global hawk is based in Sigonella, but we know it from Nomuos because they follow the situation in Sicily. Sicily.
Okay. Yeah. For now, there are no more questions, but maybe there is something that you would like to add, or yeah, that you haven't said. Maybe there is anything you would like to add.
Yes, we will go on our fight. Anyway, we'll never stop.
I'm very glad to hear that, and I hope that we managed to coordinate well the resistance against Rheinmetall, which is a transnational struggle. I also remember at the Rheinmetall Entwaffnen camp in Unterlüß that you were mentioning, there was also an amazing comrade, like also struggling against Rheinmetall from South Africa, and I think the production is in so many different countries, and I think we can be optimistic that the numbers of protests against Rheinmetall are increasing. The focus on the company has increased, and I hope that we will manage to continue developing transnational, international resistance against it, and to fight for life and against those who are profiting from death and from war. And yeah, thank you so much for being with us. And
Thank you.
Bye.
Ciao.
Thank you, Jackie. Thank you.
Thank you for this space.
Yeah.
So, Jackie,
Thanks a lot.
an honor. Thank you so much. Thank you. All the best.
Everybody who joined the chat and the discussion.
Yeah.
And solidarity to Marta from Domus Novas.
Yeah.
Oh, there are responses being written to that, I think. Yeah, thanks a lot. Bye. Marta is still saying something, but I think, yeah, these are, people are happy, you see. Many people are saying thank you. And yeah, so all the best, good luck. Everyone who wants to share the call or donate or talk more about it is most welcome to do so. And as I've said, more information is on the IMI website, and there you also find the WordPress page from Stop RWM. Okay.
Bye. Ciao. Ciao.
Ciao.